Good afternoon, YouTube. Pam and Jet here. Gonna do a little video today. Something kind of fun, something to kind of, give you guys a little break from the what my channel's sort of become over the last couple days, which is like the I Hate Avatar channel, while still keeping in the mood of how much I hate that movie. Sip. Um, my one of the comments in one of my other Avatar videos from somebody who actually liked it, I was really kind of surprised that there weren't more people coming in and saying like, "You suck, Avatar's awesome." But there were two people who I actually think was just one troll with a sock account that came in and was like, "Well, you couldn't do any better, and when you make a movie, I'll come and comment on yours." And it's like, well, maybe if I had $350 million, but since I don't, I'm going to give you something else that you can ridicule that I've done. I fancy myself a writer. I consider myself a writer. So I'm going to share a little short story that I wrote with you guys. So I hope you enjoy. Let me take another sip of my little coffee. The name of this story is Close Only Counts in Horseshoes and Lemonade. I'm going to read off this piece of paper. There once was an orc named Petunia, and he was friends with a space guru named Cheese Pizza. Cheese Pizza's Aunt Bologna needed a heart transplant, and Petunia and Cheese Pizza wanted to help her because she lived in a ditch and was ugly, and all she ever wanted was a heart transplant. So Petunia and Cheese Pizza sat on the curb all Thursday afternoon trying to think of a way to help poor old Aunt Bologna. First they thought about prostitution, but quickly realized that they'd never make any money because Petunia's head was bulbous and Cheese Pizza was a horrible 12-foot-tall space kangaroo, and no one wanted to have sex with either of them. Then Petunia remembered that every summer the terrifying orphans at the terrifying orphanage across the street from his house ran their own little lemonade stand and would force folk off the street to buy their overpriced sugary lemon water. And they could totally rip off their idea and make a mint. But then they realized that they had no lemons and no money to buy any with. So they sat on the curb most of Friday and Saturday trying to come up with a cheap lemon substitute. Then about 9 p.m. Saturday night, Cheese Pizza remembered that he had seen some giant glowing mushrooms in a hallucination he'd had last week while he was hanging around the old abandoned quarry downtown. And he thought there might be some similar mushrooms at the old abandoned quarry downtown. So on this hunch, the two headed down to the old quarry, and lo and behold, growing there, and glowing like the noonday sun, was a forest of giant yellow mushrooms. So they gathered all they could fit in Cheese Pizza's intergalactic pouch and headed home. The next day, they sat themselves outside Petunia's house with their giant radioactive mushrooms and their rickety sign reading, "Mushrooms for Bologna, 25 cents, and Aunt Bologna herself, in a wheelchair, holding a big bucket for tips. After a week of fantastic business, and a few trips to the hospital to take care of some radiation burns, Petunia and Cheese Pizza were rolling in their sweet, sweet mushroom money on Petunia's front lawn, which was pissing off the orphans across the street whose lemonade stand was floundering. The only way the horrifying children could possibly compete was with their own brand of radioactive confection. So the orphans broke into their local nuclear reactor and stole some delicious toxic waste that they used to concoct a brand new lemonade recipe. Armed with this and their superior business plan, the orphans were able to win back their turf. Petunia and Cheese Pizza didn't really give a rat's ass, since they were closing up shop now that they had made their fortune and exhausted their supply of mushrooms. Also, Aunt Bologna inexplicably died of radiation poisoning, so they spent all her money on hair clips and pornography. The orphans were doing well themselves until folks started coming around and complaining that the waste-contaminated lemonade had turned them all into horrible mutants. They all dragged their extra limbs and giant deformed heads up to the lemonade stand and threatened the orphans with a class action suit. But when the orphans' lawyer showed up with a bomb strapped to his chest and told the deformed masses that he'd blow them all to kingdom come, the mutants decided against the lawsuit and ate the orphans instead. This being done, the marauding ghouls turned their attention to the rest of the city. And that is how Cleveland was founded. The end. Hope you guys enjoyed. Give me your feedback. Tell me how terrible my writing is. I will see you guys next time. So long, folks.